Hi everyone, last week we talked about how Jesus describes kingdom people, those who are humble and broken over sin and completely dependent upon God, and these are the ones he calls blessed. Today, Jesus continues to teach the Beatitudes, and he continues with three more, showing us how people in the kingdom live in a world that often doesn't look like the kingdom as yet. He begins, "Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled." When we think of hunger and thirst, we think of a deep craving, something we need to survive. And Jesus is saying that kingdom people don't just casually hope for righteousness, they desperately long for it. What does righteousness mean here, though? In the Bible, righteousness, or dikaiosune in the Greek, means being right with God or living rightly in relationship with others. It's personal holiness, but also justice, making sure people are treated fairly and with dignity. So do we long for things to be right in our world? Do we care about the injustice, not ignoring the suffering of others, but asking, how can I help? Can we look at our own lives and truly seek to live in obedience to God, in right relationship with Him, or are we just comfortable with where we are? If we hunger for righteousness, we'll pray for it, we'll work for it, and trust that in the end God will satisfy that longing. Jesus says, "Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy." Now, mercy isn't just feeling bad for someone, it's taking action to help. And Jesus was constantly moved by compassion, whether healing the sick or forgiving sinners or feeding the hungry. He was distractible. The ultimate act of mercy, of course, was the cross, where Jesus took our sin and identified with the worst of humanity, taking our shame upon himself so that we could be forgiven. And this is the hard part. Jesus says that the way that we receive mercy is tied to the way that we give it. In James 2:13, as he considers this idea, James wrote, "Judgment without mercy will be shown to anyone who is not being merciful." Mercy triumphs over judgment. In other words, if we withhold forgiveness and kindness, we show that we haven't really understood God's mercy toward us. So who in our lives needs mercy? Is there someone that you and I need to forgive? Are we willing to go out of our way to help someone in need, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's undignified for us? It could be simple acts, just helping a struggling neighbor, offering a kind word, serving in our community. It's important to reflect on God's heart and how He cares for those who are marginalized and are not receiving justice. Jesus says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God." When Jesus talked about purity of heart, he wasn't just talking about avoiding sin. He was talking about integrity. See, the Pharisees looked good on the outside, but their hearts weren't truly seeking God. They fasted and they prayed and they gave to charity, but they did it to impress people, not because they genuinely loved God. Psalm 24, 3-4 asks the question, "Who may ascend the mountain of the Lord? Who may stand in his holy place?" Well, it's the one who has clean hands and a pure heart. And Jesus, taking this idea, is saying that if we really want to see God, if we want to know Him deeply, we need to pursue Him with sincerity, not just religious performance, not just by doing the actions. Are we living in a way that is public rather than private when we're thinking about God? When we serve God, is it out of love, or is it because we want to look good to everyone else? See, we need to surround ourselves with people who will encourage us to be honest, to be accountable. And this is why I believe small groups and even discipleship with a select few people, Christian friendships matter. Now, when we look at these Beatitudes, we need to recognize that Jesus is not giving us a checklist, right, of how to get into heaven. He's showing us what happens when the kingdom of God starts shaping hearts. He shows us how God works in the world and the kind of people that God desires to work through. If we are people who hunger for righteousness, we will live rightly and bring justice where we can, and God in his kingdom will work through us to plant seeds for his kingdom. If we show mercy, we will experience God's mercy in deeper ways. If we seek God with a pure heart, we will know him more and see him at work in our lives. And here's the best part. This isn't just something in the future. This starts now. As we live this way, we're not just waiting for the kingdom, we're bringing little glimpses of it into our world, looking forward to the day when we will see its full appearance here on earth. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.